All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 485 of the KissFAQ podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill, admin on the FAQ message board. Today, got 69th Blizzard Ken.
You're muted.
Did you say something, or are you muted already?
Yes.
I was muted.
There you go.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. And
Hello.
Marcus Almighty, Mark.
Reading.
Lonnie might be around. We'll see if he's able to join. If you're joining us live, thank you as always for joining us live. You can throw your topics into the mix as well, because we're going to do some more topics from the board this week. Just haven't had time of late to really put any thoughts into doing an in-depth episode. Anyone bought anything this week?
Yes. Actually, and I've long awaited for mine to come in, because as you know, I have my stuff on Bandcamp, my own stuff, and I frequent Bandcamp quite a lot. And when I released my CD version of my latest record, the latest Project Gemini one, I discovered this band because they were in the same kind of layout where I was being shown. And I checked out their music and I thought it was really, really cool. And I don't know if you guys have heard of this band, Voyager. They're from Australia. This is their newest album. They're kind of like electronic metal. It's something that people probably wouldn't really expect me to listen to, knowing my past and, you know, the music that I listen to in general, but it's really good. I mean, there's not, if you like melody, if you're into melodic singing and into melodic like songwriting in general, I think you'd like this. It's just, if you can get past the kind of keyboard stuff that's in there, it's really good. I mean, it's one of those things where it's almost like candy. Once you listen to it, once you have to listen to it over and over and over and over again, it's that good.
Cool. Yeah. So you sometimes make good discoveries on Bandcamp or on Facebook from friends who are in bands. I was hoping you were going to mention a doomy, electric, trancey toker band, Spiral Electric. You can check out on Bandcamp as well. They've got some very cool stuff. So yeah, I got a FedEx in from Japan today, and not Kiss related. It's the new Aerosmith Greatest Hits. But this one is 6 CDs. Comes with 3 live CDs. It's 2 CDs worth of cuts. Yeah, 2 CDs of cuts from all the live stuff that they had streaming. What was it, last year or earlier this year? And then Rock for the Rising Sun on the 3rd CD, which I didn't have the video of. So it's just nice to get it all as a pack. So that was really cool. Mark, you were talking about, you know, music that people would not expect you to be into. And, you know, before we get into stuff, you've got an update coming for Project Gemini, right? When's that video going to be out?
I'm going to probably record it either tomorrow morning or later in the day, but it'll be probably out tomorrow sometime.
Cool. Yeah, and Mark's music, I actually discovered that band Mark was in a lifetime ago, the Exalted Pile Driver. Mark actually played on, I believe, the only studio album that actually had a proper band for Pile Driver and Exalted Pile Driver back in 2008. But it's a pro shot from the European run that you did in 2007, and it's really cool. It's only 4 songs. I want to see Mark doing the intro to Executioner again, because I'm sorry, I'm not usually into that sort of music, but it was really fun. So check out the Exalted Pile Driver live 2007 on YouTube for it.
What Julian's referring to, sorry to interrupt you there, Julian, was basically there's a festival that we performed in as part of our European run called Keep It True. It's called the festival. So if you put in Keep It True and put Exalted Pile Driver, it'll come up there for sure. And I advise to listen to it on headphones. Don't listen to it on your phone, because the bass guitar, the way they mixed it, it's there, but it's really so low, like not the volume, but the tone of it. So that if you listen on headphones, it sounds really awesome. But on a little, you know, speaker on a telephone, you can like, where's the bass? You know, you like listen to it like that. But it sounds really good. And there's also footage of us in Cleveland playing before as well and stuff like that. So there's other Exalted Pile Driver stuff out there if you're interested.
Yeah, if you're only familiar with Mark and his Project Gemini stuff, he was in other bands, and this, it's heavy. I could see why people in Europe got into it a lot, and I would have thought Montreal would have been popular as well for you. So again, just a little bit more about Mark for you to check out. You still have that guitar, and you use it for Project Gemini, don't you?
Yeah, that's Strat.
But you have the mask.
I think I might have it somewhere. I have my old costume somewhere around here too.
Wow.
Hey, that's fun. So thank you everyone for joining us. Lonnie's just popped in, so he missed the Aerosmith and Exalted Pile Driver talk.
David Donnelly says the Power Trio is back. That's a shot at me from out of nowhere.
Oops.
Well, now everything in the world is right. So this week we're going to get into some more topics. And, someone pointed out that it was the 22nd anniversary of WCW, the Demons debut on whatever that was. Was that WCW?
It was Monday Night
videotaped it. Yeah, I videotaped it. But Lonnie, take us back to that. Was it cool? Was it something that you were looking forward to? And was it something that you thought would last longer than it did?
I had stopped watching wrestling, but knowing this was coming, I started watching Nitro a couple weeks in advance, just kind of getting myself ready, so to speak. You know what I mean? And it turns out it's still Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair fighting each other, and it turns out I hadn't missed much. But it was cool. I thought it was really cool when they brought him out at the very end, and it was a different wrestler that first night when Kiss played as opposed to who it became. But I thought it was cool. Did I think it was going to last? I didn't know. There was talk of bringing more wrestlers in and having more Kiss wrestlers. And I knew that wasn't going to be the case when the Demon could never win a match. I'd tune in every week and he would lose every Monday night. He would never win, ever.
He sucked.
He had a short little storyline with Vampiro. And then a few months later, he was just gone, never heard from again. Very short-lived, unfortunately.
Yes, and I think what Lonnie's referring to is that there was a rumor of bringing a Star Child sort of character in, and the other character, and rumor of like children of these characters as well. Remember that?
Or I think at least female. I think
but they were saying the females, and then there would be children.
Girls.
It was like unbelievable what they were thinking of. It must have been Gene's idea.
Yeah, I stopped watching wrestling when I hit puberty. I did actually watch that, and I videoed it. And actually, no, I didn't watch it. I videoed it, and then I remember fast forwarding through, like, where the hell is this stuff? Come on, get to it already.
You missed some good matches that night, Julie.
Yeah, I think I saw that tape around here somewhere. But yeah, I wasn't surprised it didn't last. But again, it's a band that's fearless. Ken, anything to say about wrestling?
Demon?
Yeah.
I mean, I gave up. Yeah, I gave up watching wrestling. I watched it when I was a kid. I remember in the late 70s. It actually saw a little bit of stuff in the 80s, but that was about it as far as.
You guys need to embrace your youth.
I even knew it was kind of goofy to me even back then. It was more. It was comical to me more than anything else.
It's so proper for men.
I guess so. Yeah.
For men who are still boys. Yeah, I come on. I do know Brutus the Beefcake, Barber, Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Those are old school guys. You got to bring like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Roman Reigns.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's a rip from today's headlines.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, if you're gonna go back to the old way, but there's new guys out there too now. Obviously, L.A. Knight. You got Roman Reigns.
Okay, moving on.
Wow, too much. Too much.
Well, we got Gene Simmons' birthday tomorrow. When you think about Gene's going to be 74.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did you think that Gene would be getting ready to go on tour again? And apparently the AFL show in Australia has now been announced. That Gene would still be out there doing it at 74. When you think about celebrating his birthday, if you were to celebrate Gene's birthday, how would you celebrate it, Mark?
How would I?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I would celebrate Gene's birthday. He's not really my guy in the band, but but am I surprised? Yes, because I remember him saying before that he didn't see himself doing. I think didn't he quote himself saying that he didn't want to be in his outfit at age 73 or something like that. I think he gave like an actual age where he said he didn't want to be in it at that point. But I guess when he said it, he wasn't expecting COVID to happen and a lot of other stuff beforehand, right? So, but what could you do to celebrate Gene? I mean, maybe you can watch Exposed, in tribute to him, or maybe watch that. What was that really bad movie he did with Magnum PI there? Runaway.
Runaway.
Yeah.
Runaway is one of the better ones.
Was
horrendous movies.
Tom Selleck is his name.
Yeah.
Never Too Young.
No, I don't even bother watching
Never
those
Too Young to
ones.
Die.
Anything with a cross-dressing Gene is that's a nightmare in itself, right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I look. He's in the same kind of age group as my parents.
Yeah, same here.
And I'm lucky to still have my parents around. And if I was to try and think of my father getting up on stage blowing fire,
Right?
He was in a jazz band in the 60s in Oxford, so it just does not compute. So it just makes me respect him all the more. Am I going to celebrate Gene's birthday by playing Asshole? No. Ken, how about you?
Yeah, I may play some vault stuff tomorrow. And possibly maybe it's still album, but I think I'll listen to that. I haven't pulled those songs out in a little while, so I think I'll check them out. I know I enjoy a lot of those songs on the vault, so I think I'll do that.
How do you listen to the vault these days? You just pick a random disc, or do you just throw the whole thing and hit shuffle?
Kind of a mixture. I have them all mixed on like an iPod, so I can just sometimes I point to a disc. Sometimes I just skip along and say, okay, oh yeah, I want to hear this one or that one. Yeah. Sometimes it's random.
Lonnie's going to celebrate Gene by playing Revenge, I bet.
Right. When I think about Gene's birthday, I always think about August 26th in 2000, because it was the day after Gene's birthday when they played that show in St. Louis, and it was so freaking hot out. And you can hear Paul talk about it on the bootleg about how hot it is in between songs. And, obviously Ace takes the top of his costume off. And coincidentally, it's just about that damn hot in St. Louis all week this week. It reminds me actually of that week in that show. It's supposed to be like 100 degrees tomorrow. It's 100 degrees today. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they got a lot of hot weather.
It's insane. And it's supposed to be that hot again tomorrow. So it really reminds me of that week when they came here in 2000. That's what I always think of when I think of Gene's birthday. But what do I do to celebrate Gene's birthday? I'm just going to play a lot of Kiss in general. I mean, Gene and Paul are the lifeblood of Kiss. So I'm just going to play a lot of Kiss tomorrow. And, I can't believe that, going back to 2000, seeing them on the farewell tour, here we are 23 years later, and we're getting ready for another U.S. tour this fall. So, and again, I tell everybody that I'm seeing them, when they come here, and it really does feel final as opposed to some of the other times where you think, maybe even when they came here in 19, well, they might come back around yet one more time. Who knows how long this end of the road thing's going to go, but this really does feel final. So just by listening to some Kiss tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, Vinnie Vincent postponed Rocktoberfest, which was it conflicted with the event that is being put on by Neil Davis.
Right. Yeah.
So one is obviously bigger and has way more draw than the other, and would probably take away people from attending Vinny. So he's putting it off until February of 2024, because after October is obviously the holiday season, which is a bad time for anyone in a high inflation economy. So I don't think it's surprising, for however people want to bash Vinnie Vincent for whatever reasons that they have to dislike him or not, he has still followed through with all of those private events that he has put on in Nashville. They have taken place. And if they're for you, they're for you. And if they're not for you, fine and dandy. But I don't think anyone's surprised by that postponement, because it just wouldn't make sense to have, taking away the possibility of people being able to attend when Ace is going to be performing in Florida, and Bruce will be doing all of the Live 3, apparently.
Right.
And there'll be acoustic stuff as well. Who knows what else Neil Davis will put together by the time that happens, because if anyone went to Creatures Fest, they sure put on a heck of a lot of stuff for that event. So moving on into other topics is a tweet, or well, it started on Facebook actually, and it is of course someone not connected with the band posting that the band are currently put a halt to all archival releases while they renegotiate, whatever that means. And then some other people who are known to kind of associate in those orbits kind of confirmed it. What do you think about that, Lonnie, that, a power play is going on and it's putting projects at risk, or has killed projects?
Well, I kind of figured something was going on, because it seemed like we had gotten into a rhythm of these off the soundboards. At least it seemed like once a quarter we'd get an off the soundboard. It seemed by like this time, that's very true. It seemed like this time last year we were hearing at least rumblings of the Creatures box set, that Gene had quote unquote leaked it, whether it was on purpose or not. But we knew things like that we knew that was coming. We were getting some regular type releases, and all of a sudden there's just a line in the sand, and it stopped cold right after that last off the soundboard with Mark St. John. So I don't know. It's interesting what's going on. Is it ultimately going to be a good thing for Kiss fans? Is it ultimately going to be a bad thing for Kiss fans? Time will tell, I guess. But I hopefully it's a good thing. But I think that 50-year rule comment may be in play here. So time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, and I think in Europe, the Wicked Lester stuff has already fallen victim to it. I don't know how it works in that some of it was officially released on the box set, but those were all the 2000 remasters of the Wicked Lester album, so I don't know whether that applies. I'm just not well-versed enough in terms of how it all fits together. I always get pissed off that it's like, why did you have to say that? It just brings an optic to something that doesn't necessarily need to be discussed. But there were people on the FAQ who had spreadsheets of they announced it on this day and released it on this. So it's been 49 days between that release. So we're overdue for an announcement for another release. And,
Oh, wow.
well, you have to
Kiss
remember,
really has that kind of schedule?
we have
That's
had
real.
guys on the FAQ who have counted the number of cymbal hits in a song to compare the drummers. So,
Oh, wow.
there are some pretty hardcore dedicated lunatics, and I'm kind of one of them because of what I do. Mark, what do you think about that from the business perspective?
I think it's interesting. Like Lonnie said, that they were in a kind of interesting rhythm as far as releasing stuff. You could kind of almost, depend on something being released every couple of months, and people were excited about it. But I'm not surprised by this. As they draw near to the end of the road here, I have a feeling that they want to cash out completely out of this. Totally. I mean, if they can do it, they will. I think they just want to, get as much money and run and get the hell out of there. I think they're done with Kiss, and what better way to be done than to sell your name off and everything off to somebody else. The only thing that I'm concerned about with this is who they're going to do it to, because we know how reliable Kiss are for making great decisions with things. So hopefully they'll make a good decision and maybe sell off something to a longtime fan who has a lot of money, because we know they're out there. I mean, if you're willing to pay, thousands of dollars for a greatest Kiss album, then there's people who have money to burn out there. Okay. So maybe there's somebody out there who has a lot of money, and a business person, who has, wealth, who might be willing to take it over. And if somebody like that takes it over, then I could see maybe things continuing in a good way. But if it gets into the hands of a record label, you know what's going to happen. What do you think the priority of KISS on a major record label was always like way down here? If they take it over into a major label, they're going to be way in the back burner. We'll get something like once every 3 years at that point from KISS, I think. So I think it depends on who takes it over and how it plays out, you know,
and what they're selling. I mean,
Yeah.
is it the brand? Is it the image rights, which is where the money is? Because it sure as shit isn't with the music, I wouldn't think, because record sales and KISS catalog is very obviously not on a par with what we would hope it was, you know, so
Yeah.
the legend doesn't live up to reality. Rob Benjamin Music, I just did get your email when we were starting the show, so he has a video coming out, the Kiss Hot in the Shade retrospective by Rob Benjamin Music tomorrow. I will post that link up on the FAQ. Ken, I mean, does it take a big corporation, a multimedia corporation, to buy Kiss's rights? If that is the case, someone, you know, people have thrown around Disney, but I don't think Disney would have any interest in
Marvel. Yeah, I mean, that'd be cool if Marvel did something, or you know, Disney did something and did something with Kiss, at least, you know, film wise or something like that. But they're not really known for, you know, music bands or something like that. So I think it's just a matter of Kiss, or Gene and Paul, that is trying to get as much money as they can out of whatever it is right now. Hopefully it helps in some way, that, you know, keep the music coming out. And maybe it will be Universal still. It's just a negotiation maybe of how much they're going to get from them versus whatever they're getting now. And the only other thing I thought of is maybe what if they trying to buy back their whole, you know, catalog of music. Is that possible? I don't know. Yeah,
them spending money? No,
because they like it for free, right? But they sold it off once, so they buy it back. But it would be a hefty amount of money, I would suppose that, you know, would be. So I'm just hoping this, whatever it is, they come to a good deal and it doesn't affect the actual flow of music, such as box sets. Because I was hoping for another box set this year. Obviously, it's not going to happen. And maybe it's all happening before the, you know, the first Kiss album 50th anniversary. So maybe that'll happen next year if this all works out somehow. Yeah, I don't know. To a degree, it worries me that this deal could screw up a lot of things as far as, you know, more music releases and releases that have, you know, we've gotten these extra demos and things that were, you know, unreleased in the last couple of years. And I hope that does not stop whatever the deal is.
Yeah, so publishing, recording, all separate things as to who owns what and who has a piece of it. It becomes very complex. My understanding, and this is from the contracts, is that Universal controls a lot of the music that was recorded during the terms of those contracts. So that's why you don't see a lot of B-sides or additional material recorded for albums. It was actually defined as 9 to 11 songs, you know, from 1980 onwards. But also there was a certain amount of sides that had to be recorded in a year for earlier contracts. So you don't have a ton of extra stuff being thrown away. You know, they were very lean. There could be alternative versions, which we saw for the Creatures box set and the Destroyer box set. All those alts were under the control of Universal. Now, what does Universal not have? Well, they can't release stuff that they don't have. And as I know from sending something to them at Iron Mountain, they don't have everything in their vaults. So what do they have control of? And why is Paul Stanley suddenly finding 1971 Wicked Lester recordings and posting them on Twitter? because that is pre-contract. Even the 73 demos were accounted for in a transfer of usage. And again, I don't have all the contracts in front of me, nor the brain in the music business law to go through it. So I would think that Universal only controls what they have access to in their vault, and they have to have the permission of the artist to release.
Now, I'm pretty sure I remember reading somewhere too, maybe you can correct me on this, Julian, but didn't Kiss at one point when they were in monetary trouble, I remember reading somewhere that they sold their publishing rights to a Japanese company at one point, a huge amount they got for it too.
Yeah, and like many artists, they've been terminating the copyright or those agreements because they've hit, I think, the 30-year marker or 40-year, whatever. There's some legal stuff. Again, it's whether it's mechanical, whether it's publishing. I'm not smart enough to understand that, nor do I want to get into that. But they have been terminating and reclaiming control of a lot of the catalog over the past. I think we're coming up to a decade now since those laws have been available. But that's for more. My Gravel marketing podcast to really go into the nuts and bolts of it because they understand it better than me, and none of us are on that side of it. So it's a very complex situation.
I just want to say, I just don't want. I know Mark's suggestion of some rich businessman, but if it's the wrong rich businessman, that's a hoarder.
I'm Kiss fan.
That's a hoarder. Well, yeah, there's of Kiss hoarders that
could Elon Musk buy it? I mean,
that do not want to release.
You just need a very dumb rich person like Elon Musk.
There you go. That's what I said.
$40 billion for Twitter and drive it into the ground because again, the licensing makes money without a doubt because that has just been easy money. You are licensing a image and slapping it on your product, and they get paid up front. And it's all large money. Anything with royalties is slow trickle. So it's two different sorts of revenue streams. The image is everything. So, I hope someone like Elon Musk doesn't buy it because the image has had enough damage done to it by the current owners in some ways.
It's the new face of Twitter.
Yeah. It needs to, well, my opinion is that it needs to be treated lovingly. Where all the material, and that includes Paul and Gene's pre-stuff, hopefully would be bundled in and included in it so that it could be archived properly, released properly, monetized properly. And a lot of that stuff, do you think Paul's made copies of those reels? I certainly hope not, though I did hear of someone who heard the acoustic reel from Wicked Lester. And I just have images of Paul putting it on a reel-to-reel player. Say, let's listen to this. There's the oxide falling down and
falls apart.
A disruption in the forest. So
Elon could buy the rights to Kiss and then change the name.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Again, the people who are commenting on, I don't know how connected they are in the industry. I don't know nothing. I don't want to know nothing on the business side. It's too headache inducing. Just off the soundboards are really cool. And now Aerosmith clearly has live from the soundboard. I wouldn't be surprised if they were going to start doing that as well. I think archival releases while I'm still alive would be very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Once I'm dead, I don't give a shit. And we're all at that age. There's barely a week that goes by when I don't see someone suffering a loss of someone in our age group, which is just staggeringly sad. So from a selfish point of view, while we're still here, it'd be nice to be able to enjoy some of the stuff that is, we got a taste of it on Creatures. Those Saint and Sinner work tapes.
Yeah.
Just really freaking cool. What else do they have? All right, let's move into 20 years ago. What was happening? World Domination
Tour.
Yeah, so an opportunity for Julian to talk more about Aerosmith. Looking back at that tour, how do you remember it? Was it a high point, a low point? 20 years. Aerosmith's just put out a few songs from one of their shows, so it's clear that shows were archived. Would you like an off the soundboard World Domination, that would fit on one CD? Ken?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. World Domination.
A weird ass lineup, right?
Very unique.
Yeah. I did not see them. that's one of the few times I did not go.
You're not a real Kiss fan.
Oh, you got to cut that
Why do you
Kiss
hate-
Army thing.
It was blasphemy.
Why do you hate Tommy Thayer?
No,
Yeah.
I do. It's not a rock the nation. But it's opening for Aerosmith. That was, to me, was blasphemy. I was not gonna. It's like,
blasphemy.
Kiss cannot open for anybody. Forget it. I'm not going. It was just one of those times. I just didn't feel the need. It could have been one of my lowest points of being a Kiss fan around that time. Probably throughout all the years, it's probably one of the lowest points where I was kind of losing a little bit of interest.
Wow,
Yeah, a little bit.
you were losing interest, Mr. Team
Just
G.
a little bit.
there.
Didn't jump off fully, but I didn't go see it.
Shame on you, Ken.
Shame on me for that.
Yeah.
Well, I made up for it.
I didn't go see it either, to be honest.
Oh, okay. So
This is a great,
see?
discussion. This is
Hey.
a great discussion.
But I
That
mean,
guy.
but at that point, I mean, I was doing other things, and I was, involved in other things, and I knew that Kiss were out and about and doing things. But to be honest with you, I find that was one of the more interesting lineups with Kiss, with having Peter back and having Tommy in there. And actually, in my, I don't have a very vast bootleg video collection, but of the stuff that I do have, I like very much. One of the shows that I do have is I have a Madison Square Garden show of the World Domination Tour with those guys, and I thought that was a really, really good show. It's probably one of my more watched ones that I have in my video collection. I thought it was really good. I thought that Peter did a good job, and it was one of the better versions of a Black Diamond that I saw them do for a while there. I thought it was really good, But I can see what Peter was talking about when he was complaining about all the smoke and all that, at that time. So, but yeah, I mean, I didn't go and see it. Like I said, I was busy with other things at the time. But if I could go back, in time, then maybe I would go check it out, because it is an interesting lineup, and they seem to be. I think, you know what, Ken? You said you didn't want to go because they were opening for Aerosmith. You know what? I would have almost rather go see Kiss in that capacity for one reason, because they have something to prove then, because they're now bumped down out of the headliner's spot, because they're so used to, we're the top guys. And then Aerosmith's like, no, you're not the top guys. We are, and then they're going to go out there and say, oh yeah, we're going to show you how it's done. And then Paul goes out there and, starts flashing around a bit more, and Peter does his best performances. And then the next thing you know, you have a great show, which I think they did.
Yeah. So it was kind of a love-hate thing for me. I was miserable that we were going to get two shortened sets from two bands that I love.
Yeah.
Clearly, I love both bands. I don't need to even prove it. It is the first time I met Peter Criss. So I have extremely fond memories of doing the meet and greet, and just hanging with Peter, because everyone else is flocking around Gene and Paul. And just I had a really cool interaction with Peter, which really set the tone for everything that I've thought about him since. And every single interaction with him since has been the same in terms of that is Peter Criss. He has been the same in makeup, out of makeup, backstage, at the events, even earlier this year. Same Peter, just really humble and thankful. And I know not everyone's had that same interaction, but every single one of mine has been a guy who is totally appreciative of the audience. And the shorter sets, again, I got to see some of a pro shot of Kiss, during that tour. They need to get that sort of material out. It would be really cool. There's just, again, it's kind of a forgotten tour. I listened to, I think, Jones Beach the most, and it's got some windy night on one of the nights for that show. Lonnie, World Domination. Where did you see them in the world?
I saw them here in St. Louis. It was a day later than it was supposed to be. Part of the tour got pushed back because of a power outage in the Midwest. So it was originally supposed to be on a Saturday night, and it was on a Sunday night. It really dates this story that this is embarrassing. I shouldn't even tell this.
Oh,
Is
No,
that
dude,
No.
come on,
spill it.
embarrass yourself.
is that this is in a previous life of mine. I was married, and we got up like at 6 a.m. that morning, and the Rams still played in St. Louis at the time, and we put on Rams jerseys, painted our faces, and went to the Rams game in our Kiss makeup in our Rams jerseys, and then from there went to the show that we took off our Rams jerseys, put on our Kiss shirts, and went to the show that night. It was a long ass freaking day.
I guess so.
But I mean that's a cool story though, that we went to the game in the makeup and everything like that. And, it was very unique and very different. And I kind of had the opposite reaction that Ken did. I was so excited that they were touring and that they were back, because I saw them on the farewell tour 3 years prior. 2001, they play Australia and it's kind of go out with a fizzle, and that's kind of about it. And we spent the next year and a half or so just wondering what the hell is going on. And then all of a sudden they're doing Symphony, and then all of a sudden we're touring America with Aerosmith. I didn't care that they were opening for Aerosmith it was opening for Aerosmith, that they were back. And I was going to get the opportunity to see them again, where I thought I had said goodbye to them, and all of a sudden they were back. I was disappointed that it was Tommy. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was disappointed it was Tommy. I was really hoping for the all four. And that's probably one of the bigger reasons why Ken didn't go, that what's going on here? This is kind of strange. But the fact that I got to see them again, I was so excited. I mean, I was like counting the days really to see them. I was at a, I liked that show. I wish I had a copy. I wish I had a bootleg copy of that show from St. Louis. It was a fun show. It was good. They blew. I mean, Julian, I know you're an Aerosmith guy, and I like Aerosmith too. But like a lot of people say, they blew Aerosmith off the stage on that tour. It's similar to the way Motley Crue kind of blew Kiss off the stage in 2012. But it was great. I loved it. I was totally on board with it. Like Kiss was back. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, come on. We didn't know what the hell was going on in 2002 with Kiss, whether it was the end or whether, they were going to continue. I mean, we all kind of figured, oh, you're drinking a Yingling.
Just to rub your nose in it, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yep. So we didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, it's one of those really weird periods in history where the band didn't seem to have any focus. Here's a cool topic from the board, and you've had no time to prep for this one, so it's going to be off the cuff. What is your favorite Kiss love song? So that's a song with the top, and this is Black Diamond on the board. Thank you for the topic. And what they say is, so it's time to find out what is the best love song from Kiss. You can't choose three. Yeah, go ahead and choose it if you want, because then you won't have any ties, Ken. So it's just gotta have love in the title. What would be your three?
Well, it has to love in the title.
Gotta have, So Nothing Can Keep Me From You is out of the running already, as is Don't Touch My Ascot. What a shame. World Denomination Tour. Yeah, no, they did not make it to Wales. So I'll go first. Making Love. I Stole Your Love and Come On and Love Me would be my three picks. Ken?
Love songs. Love.
Just gotta have love in the title. Come on, it's like half the catalog.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of songs.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. How about
All Night does not have love in the title.
No, Love 'Em and Leave 'Em.
A Gene song.
And how about?
They're all going to be Gene songs.
Of course.
I think that's not the only one with love that he
Got Love for Sale.
Oh no, there's another one.
There you go.
Oh, and there's one more.
Tunnel of Love.
Oh, that's on his solo album. That doesn't count.
Oh, it doesn't count?
No.
Okay. Let's see.
Go back to Rock and Roll Over. You know you want to.
Oh.
Come on. It's so easy. Come on. Come on, Ken.
I'm not.
Ken, I've been disappointed in you in the past. Absolutely, I have on many occasions.
No,
You need my
never to
love,
this
baby,
extent.
oh
Isn't
so
there a-
bad. You're not
I
the
know.
only one
All right,
I've
calling
ever
Dr.
had.
Love.
There it
I
is.
love it.
I was gonna try to throw in an Ace one if I could. Does Ace have any?
Well,
Ace.
I'm actually surprised Opal Archive wins the one that Ken should have picked because I'm very disappointed, Ken.
Fits like a glove.
Oh,
G-L.
Love.
Fits like
G-Love.
a
G-Love. Daniel would have done that, I think. He would have.
Yeah. Mark, all right.
Well, number one immediately that comes to mind is Love Gun. I've always loved that song from the very first time I heard it. So that's definitely one of them. And Calling Dr. Love is a favorite of mine as well. So that's definitely number two. And I Stole Your Love. That's one of my favorites as well. So those three would definitely be my top three.
You did a cover of I Stole Your Love, didn't you?
No, I didn't do one of that. No.
No? Didn't one of your earlier bands?
No, I don't think we ever did that.
Well, do a cover of I Stole Your Love then. There you go.
Yeah, maybe
right.
we should do it this time. Yeah.
All right. Lonnie.
Well, I'm going to go Come On and Love Me. It's a great pick, Julie.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I'm going to go Love Her All I Can. And how can I not say Tough Love? Thank you, Austin. Yes.
Not Love Theme from Kiss?
Austin's my boy.
So just looking at the FAQ message thread, Paul, Love Theme from Kiss is not winning. I Stole Your Love is like a monster. It's so far ahead. It's got like 26% of the votes. Come On and Love Me is in second place, and right now there's a very nearly a tie between Love Her All I Can and Love Gun. And yeah, Tough Love has won. Now 2 with Lonnie.
2. Thank you.
Yep.
3, Austin.
Yep. Did any of you get the Rock Machine Company? That's obviously the Gene Simmons and Ace Frehley band guys' album when it came out. They've had a couple of singles out. Lonnie, have you picked that up yet?
I have not. I cannot say.
Shame on you. Ken?
I haven't picked it up. I've listened to a number of things from it. That sounds really good. It does.
It's a very summer album. Very very throwback. It's got a lot of their influences.
You can feel the influences on that. A lot of different classic rock bands influences on that. You can hear it in the music, definitely.
Yeah, nicely produced, well crafted. I think it was produced by Marty Fredrickson. So, obviously quality name there. Mark, checked out any of it?
No, I haven't, but I do plan to check it out. I mean, I just haven't had a chance yet to check it out.
Yeah. So, stolen riffs is another topic that's going on. There been any songs that have come out over the years that you've just immediately turned around and said, you stole that?
Hallelujah?
That is such a ripoff. Hallelujah. What's that a ripoff of?
Burn. Deep Purple.
Well, you got to say what you think.
Burn
I mean, like Jungle is another Deep Purple lift, isn't it? You fool no one. So Dreamin', 18. I can never ever hear that connection. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
It's just that turnaround that they do in the. I was always surprised when I heard that they got sued for that, because I'm like you, Julian. When I listened to it the first time, when I came up, I was like, okay, let me listen to this real closely, and I don't hear 18 at all in there. What I just hear is that little chord turnaround. It's like how it starts with the dan, 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 dan. They do a little run up there. Mm-hmm. They do a run up like that in the song, but it's not even the same chords. It's not even the same thing. Like, so what? Now you're gonna sue for if you have similar chord changes? This is ridiculous. Yeah.
It
was like copywriting 2+2.
Yeah.
There's another one from Sonic Boom, right? With or was it Sonic Boom? It's like Poison.
Never enough.
Poison. Never enough. Yeah. That was another one out there. Then there's the thing where that Bruce Springsteen, stole "I Was Made for Loving You." That one song. Supposedly, if you listen to that one, I can't remember the name of the Bruce Springsteen song, but it came after Kiss. So
yeah, and then Tomorrow's a lift of what was it? The Joe Walsh song.
Was it Tomorrow or Shandy?
Or was it Shandy was lifted? So I can't remember.
Shandy lifted from Joe Walsh, I think. Yeah. And then, I mean, it goes back to, you know, not about Kiss, but other bands, you know, when George Harrison, right, did,
My Sweet Lord.
My Sweet Lord, and it's like, He's So Fine, that one. So it's like, yeah, that was pretty close. That one was pretty darn close.
Yeah. What's the one I'm thinking of? Well, Love Gun. Which, well, is it? Because it's got the Hunter in it, which is all blues, you know, which Zeppelin had done. So that one's pretty obvious. But again, it's influences coming through. And that's a problem now with how everything gets sued. Whereas influences are what make music. That you take a riff. I mean, how many times, Mark, you sit around playing, just jamming sometimes.
Yeah.
You get into a groove on someone else's riff, and then you start twisting it around and transforming it. You know, I mean, that's what I do for my stuff. I'm just sitting there with a guitar. I'm playing a riff. I maybe look up a tab to see how to play a Kiss song, because I generally don't play any Kiss songs. And I hear the riff, and then I start twisting it. And I take it to somewhere where I want to go.
Actually, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I've made it a rule for the last 8 years now that before I start working on a record, I don't listen to any records. Like, I don't want to listen to anything. And a lot of that, because a lot of the times you can fall into a trap. You know, you're listening to whatever, like a Zeppelin record, or listening to Deep Purple record, or listening to whatever, anything, Metallica. You start playing something on your guitar, and then all of a sudden you change a note or two around, and you think you have a new riff. And really, do you? You know, I mean, you're just kind of like modifying something else. So what I found that works good for me is I sometimes start writing songs using a different instrument. Like, I'll come up with a drum beat first, you know, and if I come up with a decent drum beat that I like, then I'll try to write a guitar part around that, or I'll do something on a bass guitar first, which is more, you know, I find a little bit easier for me to kind of stay away from another riff doing that, because it's not really my first instrument. But I can see how that happens, because like you said, if you're jamming, you know, you're playing a Kiss song, and all of a sudden, you know, you stumble onto something else, you add a little couple of notes to it, all of a sudden you think you have a new riff. So it is easy to fall into that.
Yeah, it happened to me the other day. I was just like coming up with a really cool little pattern, and by the end of it, I realized that someone had already written "Beat It."
You're like, this is pretty good.
Yeah, this has potential.
This is great.
Gene has ripped off himself, you know.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Cecil, where was that comment? Because it was an earlier comment. There, no. Well, then, Hell or Hallelujah. No, it's Rodrigo. Thank you. Hell or Hallelujah rips off I Still Your Love, and I Still Your Love was based on Burn Paul.
There you go.
You know, so it's all cyclical. I mean,
well, and Cecil talks about she was taken from the Doors, when then Pearl Jam took it as well. The solo and she's in a Pearl Jam song.
Yeah, Got to Choose was totally Paul twisting someone else's riff. You know, again, that's the great thing about music, is that I don't know how Mark can even say I don't listen to anything before going and writing an album, when all that stuff's already in your sponge, you know, from a lifetime of listening to music. And that's why these copyright cases, you know, they win, because if you were alive when that song was originally released, you're screwed, because there's no way that you can prove that you didn't hear it and be influenced by it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, but it is different though when you pull out a record and you've been listening to it all day, and then you go and start working on music. I mean, obviously there are songs that are still stuck in my head, but I think that you're more influenced by music when you're like sit down and seriously listen to it. Like, if I take, like, let's say I take this and go into my car now, in the next 5 days, I listen to this album nonstop, and I go into my studio now and pick up my guitar and start working on something, I could fall into that risk that I might find something similar to that in my writing, which is something I try to steer away from, right?
Yeah. All right, one last. Lonnie, did I get to you?
You did. You're good.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I've got one. I gotta end early tonight because I have to go back to work and do stuff. Let's end on, unless any of you brought a topic. Any of you bring a topic?
I did not bring a topic.
Crickets.
What?
All right, here's one. Would anyone want to hear Dynasty remixed? My first kind of response to that was why. My second response was Destroyer Resurrected hasn't had many spins in this household lately. Mark, would you want to hear Dynasty remixed?
Absolutely not. That album to me
Okay.
is absolutely perfect the way it is. And I've said it many times before. I'm sure people are going to roll their eyes when they hear me say this again. But to me, when I put the headphones on and listen to that album, I just see New York City, Manhattan. That has such a New York vibe, that record. I'd be afraid that if somebody went in there and tried to, crunch up the guitars or, take down some of the keyboards or that, it would just take away the vibe of that album. I think it sounds really good the way it is. I mean, if there's any album that should be up for discussion for remixing, it's more Unmasked than Dynasty, I would say.
Wow, I actually agree with you. Lonnie?
Would I want to hear it remixed? Sure, I'll take it. I'll hear it remixed. Again, I was anxious for Destroyer Resurrected. Has it had a whole lot of listens afterwards? Not really. But would I like to hear it? Sure, I'd like to hear what could be done to it. Doesn't mean that I'm going to fall in love with it, because that original version of Dynasty will always be my go-to, just like Destroyer. Some people like Destroyer Resurrected. We've discussed it on this panel, and we're not one of those. I don't think any of the four of us are one of those people, but some people do like it. But would I like to hear it? Sure. Let's see what can be done.
Yep, I think the comments seem nearly universal on Unmasked before Dynasty, though, where Strago wants to hear the bigger drums, and Austin wouldn't mind hearing Anton's Dynasty drum tracks. Ken, would you remix it?
You can remix any of their albums, in my opinion. Actually, I'd like to have The Elder remixed. I would like to hear that differently. Of course, when everyone's talked about Hotter Than Hell, and I don't know if this depends on how it was originally mixed in the first place, but that one's always been one where, can we clean that up a bit and make it a little bit less, muddy, but who knows? I'm okay with anything being mixed just to see a difference. There are some that I think need to be remixed, in my opinion, but there's some other ones that you probably shouldn't touch.
Yeah, I think the flawed albums in history that need remixing: Metallica, not Black Album, that's a piece of shit. And Justice for All without the bass. And there were some mixes done with a bass, and I can't remember whether it was a musician who was interpreting what was played by Jason during the tour and then mixing it in. I've not been able to. I've never kept that in my rotation anymore. I go back to the Blackout and Justice for All because
you secretly love the Black Album.
It is the album that I had on rotation just continuously, and so it feels comfortable. It's a comfortable pair of shoes to wear on my ears. I wouldn't same with Death Magnetic, which was atrociously mastered. Where the mix is less the problem than the mastering. The same issue goes for Sonic Boom and Monster. I would much rather those be taken back and be completely remixed and remastered, so that they could be listened to properly. Because I'm not so used to those. It's not so ingrained in the brain that I don't think I would enjoy those. Who knows? I might go back to the ones again. I don't want to hear Dynasty remix. Dynasty is so etched in my brain as something that I've enjoyed sonically from the first time I ever heard it. So I can't think of how I would possibly enjoy that more by fucking around with it any more than the same applies now to Hotter Than Hell for me, and I've said it before, that I am just so used to that sound, that is its fingerprint, that is its character, that is a pimple on it. And it just is, it's like a chipped statue. It's like, why repair it? It's absolutely glorious in its imperfection. And it's
and a lot of things that one of the things that people seem to forget about this too is that how the album was recorded is also an important thing to think about too, because if they went and recorded, let's say, the guitars on Hotter Than Hell were recorded purposefully muddy, like maybe the mic was off a bit, or they added a lot of low end to the sound because they were looking for something specific at that point. You could only do so much even when you remix it. Sure, you can do a lot more remixing than you can remastering. I don't know why people always think remastering is the answer. Remastering is just a very minor thing to it. If you want to do major change to a sound, you have to get the tapes, get the original multi-tracks, and go through there and redo the whole thing. That's the only way you're going to get it to do it. And even Bob Ezrin, my good friend there, said that when they did the Destroyer, that he could only do so much because his own way of recording stuff was that he would comp stuff down. Like he would put rhythm guitar tracks. If there were multiple guitars for rhythm tracks, he would bounce it down to 2 tracks in stereo, and you could only deal with those. And the same with the drums. He would bounce it down to less tracks. Instead of like 8 drum tracks, it'd be down to 4. So you could only maybe work on the kick drum and the snare, and that's it. And the rest of it's in stereo. Right, which is interesting. If you look at a lot of these Aerosmith bootlegs, not bootlegs, the reissues that came out, when you open the booklets, they have the track listing sheets on there. And a lot of those early Aerosmith albums, they only had a kick drum and then stereo left-right for the rest of the drum kit. So really, when they're mixing that, they could only just work on the kick drum, and then the rest of it was spread over a stereo track, and they just EQ'd the rest of it like that. So they couldn't go and say, okay, this tom has to go higher and this section has to go lower. They can't do that, right? So it all depends on how you record it too.
Yep. When you look at a Kiss, 83 multi-track, 11 tracks on that 24 track tape are Eric. All your drum mics, your ambient room, shitload. For just drums. And when you blend all that together, that's where you get his bombastic sound. But again, for remastering, your best example in the Kiss catalog, I think, is probably Creatures. Listen to the 82 mix and then go listen to that 85, because that's where, people, only one song was remixed for the 85 Creatures, and the other ones are all because of EQ being fiddled and mastering. All right, so that was your science lesson, badly explained. I don't think it's necessary for Dynasty. All right, that's it for a bunch of board topics. I want to thank everyone for joining live and chiming in with your comments and thoughts during this episode. It makes it much more fun just doing these live, so that there can be some audience participation. But for now, I got to get ready for work. So from Lonnie,
Back to work.
Mark, and myself, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.